Tonight on the South Bank Show, the former Monty Python animator and now film director, Terry Gilliam. Hello. In 1967, a young cartoonist left America for Britain, where he met up with a group of like-minded writers and performers who were planning a new TV series. That cartoonist was Terry Gilliam, and Monty Python's Flying Circus, the series he helped devise, became one of the most acclaimed TV comedy series ever. Python's success allowed Gilliam to progress from creating animated sequences to directing feature films such as Monty Python and the Holy Grail, The Meaning of Life, Jabberwocky, Time Bandits, and Brazil. With these films, Gilliam earned the reputation for creating a highly inventive, fantastic visual style from scant resources. But this reputation was all but destroyed by the much-publicized, spiraling budgets of his 1989 film, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Gilliam's latest film, The Fisher King, which opens in Britain this month, stars Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges in a story about the search for the Holy Grail in present-day New York. It's a film about redemption, not only for the characters within the film, but as some would see it, for Terry Gilliam himself. Francis Dickinson's film examines Terry Gilliam's work by entering his private world at his home in North London.
Okay. South Bank Show, 29,691. Take one, slate one. And welcome to Gilliam's Maison Merveilleuse. Gilliam's House of Marvels. It all happens here. They slither on their belly like reptiles. Anything you want, it's available. Now, enter. The dance. What happened to the dance, girls?
And action, Holly! Oh, magnificent.
Do it.
He did it, actually, yeah. There's a dog in love with the camera. Hello, Bryn. Whoa, 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 whoa. Harry, are you leaving home?
Oh, wait, a minute.
Terry! God, my life. Terry Gilliam's life. Here it is. I was born in Minneapolis, which is a nice town in Minnesota. Oh, Captain Planet, fly button. Can you fly? Can you fly? Here we go. You're gonna fly, Captain Planet. Ready? We lived in the country, and the nice thing about it was that, you know, there was woods behind the house. There's a cornfield over there. There was a swamp there. In the winters, it would go to 40 degrees below zero. We had an outdoor toilet. It's the Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn childhood, the kind that you dream about, that Americans actually have. I don't think many of them have it anymore, but I was one of the ones that had it.
That red ball is the Earth, Harry.
High school, I sort of floated through. I was always involved in decorating for the senior prom and, you know, building sets. And I ended up with straight A's, and I was valedictorian, and I was king of the senior prom, and I was student body president. It was disgusting. And go to college and turn bad, it seems, because academically I just stopped. My real interest was in all the extracurricular things. I remember my senior year, I was editor of the College Humor magazine, which we'd, in our fashion, turned from a beautiful literary poetry and art magazine into this crass thing full of jokes and strange cartoons and just outrageous things. What really set in motion my getting involved with Monty Python was going to New York after college and becoming the assistant editor on a magazine called Help that Harvey Kurtzman, who had created Mad magazine, was editing. And the two of us did this magazine. We did these things called fumettis, which it's like a cartoon strip, only you use photographs of real people. So it's really like making a movie, except it doesn't move, and it's still pictures. And you've got to get actors, and you have a script, and you go and get locations, and you shoot it. And we're always looking for cheap, out-of-work actors. And John Cleese was in town because Cambridge Circus, which was the Footlights review that really followed on the success of Beyond the Fringe, they had come to New York. And Graham Chapman was in the review, John, Bill Oddie, Gene Hart, David Hatch, Tim Brooke Taylor, Humphrey Barclay, who then went on to produce. I mean, an incredible collection of people were all in this cast. And John, as usual, stood out. And I got him to appear in a photo story about a man who falls in love with his wife's or his daughter's Barbie doll. It has nothing to do with reality or John's life, but he was just an actor, had nothing to do, honest. And so John and I became friends, and after the magazine folded, I went off and hitchhiked around Europe and fell in love with the place. I just thought, here at least is a place that appreciates eccentricity. This way. This is my room. And it's supposed to be my room. It was designed to sit on top of the house, to separate me from the family. I'm not sure who it's keeping from whom, but we're separate for the moment. And it was a place I always wanted. I always wanted a place that was big, that I could spread out all my work and work in the style to which I thought people who were successful worked. In fact, I find I do probably less work here than I've done in the little tiny rooms I used to scrabble around in. And little by little, this place has begun to fill up with all the bits and pieces from the films that normally get thrown on the dust heap at the end of the film or end up in some little box under a label that's soon lost. And I started collecting them, I think, from the time of Jabberwocky. And so I plonked down here. I was doing cartoons for magazines back in the States. I was doing illustrations for the Sunday Times Color magazine and for Queen magazine. I was just running around with my portfolio. I also was an art director of a magazine called The Londoner. But magazine work was beginning to really bore me, and cartooning was beginning to bore me. I wanted to get into television, and I said, John, can you introduce me to somebody that I can do something for in television? I'll probably get blamed for the death of several rainforests.
Monty Python, the Flying Circus.
The Python years, the Python experience, the Python ride, I don't know, whatever it is we call it. I'll tell you what was nice about Python was that we didn't actually know what we were doing except pleasing ourselves. And that, I think, is something to remember in life, because we weren't pretending to be knowledgeable about what the public wanted. We didn't seem to be overly concerned about becoming successful in really grandiose terms. We just wanted to make something that made ourselves laugh. And that's what we set out to do. The six of us were the judges. We were it, beginning and end. We were all very critical of each other's stuff, but mine somehow got through it because it seemed to be of a different world. And I could criticize it and say it's a piece of rubbish, but I wouldn't, just because I had to get something in there. And the others wouldn't raise their voice, which I thought was strange. So I was, in that sense, the most alone in the group, which, again, I liked it. It was like being an expatriate within Python. I had left the States, and I was in a group, but I was still on the fringe of the group.
As the horrendous black beast lunged forward, escape for Arthur and his knights seemed hopeless, when suddenly the animator suffered a fatal heart attack. The cartoon peril was no more.
Well, I mean, certainly it was sort of Terry's visual sense was very, very important to Python. But another thing that was actually quite important was really the way he put together his early short films. It actually gave us the key to how Python should be put together. I mean, we didn't want to go into Python with a particularly disciplined format. That was the whole point. It was supposed to be, you know, anarchic and subversive and different, and we could throw in whatever we wanted, but we felt there had to be some kind of shape. And Terry's animation gave a clue to that you could just leap from a severed sketch into another severed sketch. You could put a head onto a different body, a leg onto a different body, which is what Terry was doing.
Continue with a man with a stoat through his head.
He'd ring up and he'd say, I've got this great idea, and this woman comes up and her leg spins round and her nipple turns on and there's this great radio and this guy comes down and chops her head off and this turns up in a block of flats and that's pulled down. And I say, oh, okay, Terry, I'm just having dinner. I'll call you later. It was very hard to grasp what it was going to be like.
We are not about to allow this sort of smut to be shown on screen.
As far as the style of cartoons, I think what was odd is that people hadn't seen that style on television. There'd been cartoons, but they'd been in the Disney tradition, full animation, or Hanna-Barbera, those sort of cheap Saturday morning things, but nobody had seen cutout things. And because I was able to use images that were, you know, classic images, you know, like Venus or famous paintings or a bit of Dürer or throw in some Bruegel. It always had a veneer of class about it. It seemed to be probably more intelligent than in fact it really was.
This Bronzino painting, it's where Python came from, the foot came from Cupid. I used to spend, usually 15, 20 minutes every week in the National Gallery, desperate for ideas, and these paintings would eventually speak to me, and I thought, of everything in this painting, the thing that intrigued me most was Cupid's foot, which we turned into the foot of some strange god that crushes everything when it doesn't go right. This Bruegel is, I think it's the Battle of Carnival in Lent. I mean, Bruegel has always fascinated me because I think if he had been living now, he would have been making films, because his paintings are just full of stories on top of stories on top of stories. They're full of amazing characters. When we did Holy Grail and Jabberwocky, it was really Bruegel that we were trying to put on film. What I love about them, the people are just full of life. They're doing things. They're every kind of, from rich to poor to crippled to healthy. Everything is going on in them, and we just literally stole as many ideas as we could from them with no shame at all.
We're knights of the round table, we dance whenever we're able. We do routine to chorus scenes, to footwork impeccable. We dine well here in Camelot, we eat ham and jam and Spamalot.
When we came to direct Holy Grail, it was an interesting situation because we were given the money with no strings attached. We could do everything, and Terry Jones and I, ambitious little buggers that we were, you know, just wanted to be film directors. That's all we wanted to be. And so, you know, we said anybody named Terry gets to be film director of this film. And luckily there were two of us. So we set off on this business of trying to direct a film. And it was wonderful because we hadn't done it. And we made a lot of mistakes, but somehow we got through Holy Grail in 5 weeks. And for me, though, it became more and more difficult because I'd been in my little room with my pieces of paper that never talked back, that did exactly what I wanted them to do. And suddenly I was having to confront people like the rest of the group who were very independently minded. And I seemed to have no facility to communicate what I wanted clearly.
And Terry Terry Gilliam believed in the beauty of a shot. He believed there was such a thing as for, not a perfect shot, but a shot which used everything, all the sort of natural light and everything to the perfect effect. And so you would find yourself crouched in a trench with a helmet on, waiting for the sun just to catch the top of a helmet. And I think that happened with John Cleese once. John just couldn't understand why this was happening, why it had to be him, why there couldn't be someone holding a helmet up on the end of a stick for the sun to come up. But Terry said, no, it has to be right, just you've got to be in there, John, it's just going to look so wonderful. And John was saying, I don't care how fucking wonderful it looks, you know, I've got cramp, I'm miserable, I'm not getting paid very much, I don't see the point.
The Black Knight always triumphs! How about you? Come on, then. All right, we'll call it a draw. Come, Patsy. Oh, I see. Running away, eh? You yellow bastard! Come back here and take what's coming to you! I'll bite your legs off!